Well, hello everyone out there in the football world. You are listening to the Head Couch Analyst Show. I am your host, Sanders, as usual, and today I am not joined by my co-host as usual. Pardue for our common listeners, which I know most of you are Arizona listeners in the first place because you came because of Pardue. He will not be on here today, which doesn't mean to immediately click off, please. It does mean that he has some family things that he's dealing with. No family deaths, so you don't need to worry about that. Don't need to hit him up on Twitter for that, but he does have some family issues that he's dealing with. Nothing like, worrisome. He's just got to take care of some family members that are not in the greatest of shape right now, but hopefully their health comes back soon and they'll be just fine. Anyway, so you have just me to be sticking around, and I will not be by myself today. You won't hear me drone on for an hour because we have a special guest this week. We are going to have Nick Notorious, or Notorious Fantasy if you follow fantasy football, on with us. We had him on last year. He's a big Dolphins fan, and we're having him on again for our coverage of the AFC South, and it makes sense, the AFC East. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing great. Last time I was on here, we discussed the Indianapolis Colts and how we thought that they'd be much better with the signing of Phillip Rivers, and seems like we were correct on that. So at least we got that hill to be happy about.
Yeah, I remember that. And then I didn't we also give the Eagles a shot at being better, and that just didn't happen at all.
Yeah, well, that wasn't really our fault. That's more of the coaching not understanding what's happening, not pulling Hurts fast enough, or not putting Hurts in fast enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then also the whole coaching structure thing. I don't know. There seemed to be a lot of discourse between Roseman and the coach and whatnot. If you ask me personally, the Eagles for the last 6 years, and I'm including their Super Bowl year, have not always been the greatest at drafting and keeping talent around. It just so happened that one year everything clicked, and Nick Foles also had a resurgent career for at least 6 games straight, or maybe just a lucky 3 game straight, because even when he was when he subbed in for Carson Wentz, Nick Foles looked awful until the playoffs rolled around. So kind of weird how that worked. But, even then, it always felt like they've never been great at managing their talent. And I think that all comes down to Howie Roseman as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they drafted Jalen Reagor last year. I mean, I know we're not talking about them necessarily, but, what are you doing? You draft Reagor. You could have gotten all these other much better players. Claypool went in the second round, a bunch of other guys. And the year before that, they drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who's just a complete bum as well. So I really don't know what they're thinking over there.
Hell, even if you wanted to back up, oh my God, what was their running back's name? Miles Sanders, right? You could have gotten J.K. Dobbins. Could you imagine, Miles and J.K. Dobbins together? It'd be a nuts 1-2 punch in the backfield. But instead, they got Jalen Reagor. So what can you do, man? But we're not here to talk about the Eagles. We're here to talk about the AFC South and the AFC East. So we're going to start off with the AFC South first, because I think we have more to say on the AFC East. And to be honest with you, when it comes to the AFC South, a lot of these teams here are either already playoff ready or they're rebuilding. And with playoff already teams on this show, we haven't had a lot to say, because normally with for example, when we talked about the Packers on the last episode, it was just, they need a corner and a wide receiver. Their roster's fantastic otherwise. Moving on, right? Seriously, though, that's all they need, right? They need another corner, and they need a wide receiver. That's it. That's all Green Bay needs, and they're probably Super Bowl bound, right?
Yeah, probably.
Whereas, when you get, rebuilding rosters like the Jaguars and the Texans, and who knows where the Colts are at, there's just a lot to talk about. So we're going to go in order of the way the division winners went. So let's hit up the Tennessee Titans first. Now, the Tennessee Titans, if I'm being honest with you, I kind of questioned going into the 2020 year if the Tennessee Titans were real or fake. And by this, I wasn't being a biased, Ravens fan that was salty about losing the divisional round to them. I just genuinely questioned if Ryan Tannehill's rise was real. We've seen Ryan Tannehill be good before. Personally, we've seen Ryan Tannehill be good before and make the playoffs, but then just doesn't amount to anything, right?
Yeah, the thing that with Tannehill is not even that. I think the coaching has really messed him up. In Miami, he never really had a good coach. With Gaze, we made the playoffs, but he ended up getting hurt. So it's we never really saw what we could have gotten out of Tannehill. Then we traded him for a third-round pick to the Titans. To be honest, if Tannehill was our quarterback last year, we probably would have made the playoffs. But that's a conversation for later.
Oh yeah, of course. But I like Ryan Tannehill. This year he definitely proved my doubts wrong. Right, I had no idea if Tannehill just was it or not. And he had a great season. There was a point where he had was in the MVP conversation for 10 days. But regardless, he had a hot streak going on, right? And I think Tannehill and AJ Brown coming out of the woodwork, just being a massive baller. The Titans are a well-rounded offense, I think, but their problem lies in the defense. If you ask me, they have no pass rush. They tried signing Jadeveon Clowney for that, didn't work out. So they need a pass rusher, right? They just gave Bud Dupree a huge, 5-year contract, which I understand, but I still think they need an edge rusher regardless, or maybe possibly another outside linebacker to complement that, because to be honest with you, one pass rusher isn't going to do it, right? The second thing that they need is in their secondary. I feel like a corner. I'm going to be mostly all on defense here, by the way. If you have anything to say on offense, go ahead. But I'm mostly on the defense here because I think their passing game is fine. They're missing Johnny Smith, so maybe they need a tight end. Their running back room is obviously fine, but their problems last year I felt were always on defense. They need a corner, right? And it's possible. I understand, Kenny Vaccaro was fine. You might need something better than Kenny Vaccaro, or maybe someone to groom behind Kenny Vaccaro and start later in the season, or maybe even into next season. So, yeah, my problems with them are all on defense. I feel like if Tennessee wants to push past that hump of just being this, if they want to complement their running game, I guess is what I should say, they need a defense to do it, right? If you want to be that old-fashioned, ground and pound offense, that's fine. They were already doing well without a good defense. I couldn't imagine how unstoppable they'd be if they were just able to run Henry 500 times a game and know their defense is going to hold you to 18 points. So I feel like the biggest problem here is defense. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, they have the 22nd pick in the first round. I think that they have to address defense. I think they honestly end up drafting a cornerback. Now, there is 100% possibility that one of the better corners ends up following back their way, maybe the third or fourth best corner. I understand there is kind of a top 2, top 3 that people really like, and then past that, it's a bit more iffy. But I think a guy like Gregory Newsome could be the corner of the future there, and I think that's a very good pick. Now, I do also question what they were doing with Corey Davis, because everyone knows Corey Davis was terrible for the first 3 years of his NFL career, but he really turned it on last year, and they didn't even give him his 5th-year option. So, I mean, they do kind of need a second wide receiver, because otherwise the ball is just going to be going to A.J. Brown. They don't have anyone really notable around Ryan Tannehill besides A.J. Brown. I mean, Derrick Henry's not the greatest pass catcher. Not like you can put Derrick Henry out there to go play slot or something. No one's even going to cover him because he can't even catch the ball. So I think they need to get a wide receiver in there. But when we're talking about free agency, there's really no free agent wide receivers that are available that would be able to fit into this team, I think, the correct way. I think they do end up drafting defense with their first pick, and I hope they end up addressing on the second day the wide receiver position, getting a guy I don't even know. Maybe Terrence Marshall in the second round, Kadarius Toney, something like that, because they legitimately need a second guy, because I just don't know how this offense works, especially if they're not able to just run every play without a solid second wide receiver. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm in complete agreement with you on this one. You're not going to hear anything from me on there. If I'm being quite honest with you, I feel like if I were to prioritize, what should they get, right? You already took care of pass rusher with Bud Dupree. Maybe you can be one of those teams who grabs an edge rusher in the 4th round. He develops him. That's fine, right? Make him a rotational player. I think that's fine. If I'm putting a priority on what to draft on defense, I gotta say corner, but I'm not sure who you draft at 22. Will J.C. Horn be available there? I really don't know. I know a lot of mock drafts have J.C. Horn going to the Cardinals at I think it's 16. So yeah. Who knows? I know there's a lot of I live in Arizona, so I hear talk radio here all the time, but talk radio here also can be kind of garbage. And I'm not alienating any of our listeners saying that, because most of our listeners agree. Arizona sports media is kind of garbage. They hate on Kyler Murray here for no reason whatsoever. They hate their own quarterback. It's ridiculous. I would say corner, I was saying, would be the biggest thing, but is J.C. Horn available by then? I really don't know. And isn't there kind of a drop-off after J.C. Horn anyway?
Yeah, but the thing is also you have to assume there's a chance Caleb Farley could fall due to having to have back surgery, so there is potential that they could just draft him there at that spot and he falls. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
I guess they could go for that, yeah. Like you were saying, round 2, wide receiver. Round 3 at that point, I think you just need to focus on depth. Maybe you go for a tight end, right? Maybe you go for some secondary depth, possibly some offensive line depth. I mean, I love Taylor Lewin, dude. Guy's a baller, but, who knows how much longer he's got in the trenches. He's getting up there in age. As for free agency, if I were the Titans, and I believe he still hasn't been signed. Let me confirm, but I'm pretty sure he still hasn't been signed. He has not been signed yet. If I were the Titans, I would take a flyer on Jordan Reed.
Think so.
A very cheap, veteran minimum deal, if that makes sense. I know he's injury prone and stuff like that, but I feel like Jordan Reed could be a nice, not necessarily replacement for Johnny Smith, but at least someone who's there, that can pick up on the number 2 or number 3 targets. It's worth a flyer, and if it doesn't work out, you sign him for a veteran minimum, whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the other options on here are Virgil Green, Tyler Eifert, Jesse James. I don't know. Are you interested in any of those things?
No, not really. I mean, I think that's actually not the worst move. The thing is, though, with him is you kind of have to worry about injuries, right? He's not one of those guys that's super healthy, ever, pretty much.
No, I 100% agree with you on that one. So, but I was looking through, if you don't adjust it through the draft, what's left in free agency, and there's a couple names on here. I remember when Jesse James was a big name, but.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, he was pretty decent, but now it just seems like there's no way he's a tight end 1 on any team.
Yeah, not at all. So I'm always going to remember the Jesse James catch that wasn't a catch, according to the refs in that Patriots game. Yeah. A lot of Steelers fans were mad at that one. So at the end of the day, though, I think the Titans just need to work on their defense a lot. Going into this season, do you think they're still the favorite to win the division again?
It's tough because the public seems to love Carson Wentz, at least from what I've seen with the Colts. So maybe they are. I mean, the Titans and the Colts are. We haven't talked about the Colts yet, but they're by far the best 2 teams in this division. So I would say the Titans probably are the favorite, but not by much, I would say.
Well, let's get to the Colts then. So they acquired their possible franchise quarterback for a while, which is Carson Wentz, depending upon injuries or other things, playing time, etc. If you ask me. Last year, and for those of who listen to us consistently, that Pardue and I are both more or less Carson Wentz apologists at this point. Not even defenders; we're just apologists at this point. But near the end of this last season, we're like, "Wow, Carson Wentz is bad. We're sorry we defended him for so long." But in the off season, we're like, "Okay, we just want him to go to the Colts. If he goes to the Colts, that's the one shot he's got." And he's screwed if he goes anywhere else. And then when he went to the Colts, we were like, hey, we got exactly what we wanted. But so here's the one thing I like to say on this. Carson Wentz his play last year, if you watch the film, is not too different from his MVP season. And what do I mean by this? There's a specific play. I believe it was against the Dallas Cowboys. It was a 3rd and 4. Okay? Carson Wentz rolls off to the right. And he throws what would be a touchdown to the back in the corner, right? But the safety of the Cowboy comes up and he intercepts the ball literally on the edge, the Cowboy two toes it on the sideline, right? And they get a touchback interception. So here's what's mind blowing about that: if Carson Wentz would have been half a second earlier, it's a touchdown. So there's that. If he would have made the decision earlier, it's a touchdown. If he would have just thrown it earlier, half a second earlier. The thing that's mind-blowing about that play when you watch it is, yes, Carson Wentz was going for the touchdown. He had a wide-open tight end 8 yards in front of him that had nobody on him. And he could have converted the 3rd and 4, and they could have gone again. So that's what's mind-blowing. He chose to go for the touchdown instead of the wide-open tight end 8 yards in front of him. That would have converted the first down and probably gotten more yardage because there wasn't anybody around him. He would have at least had 7 to 8 more yards. And they would have been, within 15 yards of the end zone. But instead, Wentz went for the hero play. he's playing hero ball. This isn't too different from when he was playing in 2017. Carson Wentz was playing hero ball. That's why he got hurt. But when he played hero ball in 2017, it's because he had a roster around him. He had this all-pro offensive line. He had these decent wide receivers, and he had Zach Ertz at Zach Ertz's prime, and a defense that was willing to make up for any offensive mistakes. This Eagles roster is a far cry from that. A far cry from that, right? So he goes into a situation with the Colts where you have talent again, right? They bring back T.Y. Hilton. They have what's his name, Michael Pitts. They have I am disrespecting their running back right now because it's not Marlon Mack. It's
I almost said Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor, thank you. And the Colts have a monstrous offensive line, which it is so sad they have a monstrous offensive line after Andrew Luck's career is over, because that's all Andrew Luck ever needed in his life was an offensive line, and the Colts committed a crime by never giving him one. But now they have one of the best offensive lines. So if you ask me, it's a no excuse time for Carson Wentz. And when it comes to roster upgrades and roster needs in general, I would say their biggest need would probably have to be in the I guess the pass rush section to complement my goodness, what's his name?
Oh man, his name's escaping me too.
Because Justin Houston just left, but the guy I can't think of his name right now.
I'm trying to think as well.
I'm looking up Colts pass rushers right now because
No, it's okay. I forget people's names all the time. Considering I talk about football a lot, it's kind of embarrassing that I always forget people's names.
No, I'm literally embarrassed right now. Oh yeah, DeForest Buckner.
Yeah, DeForest Buckner. That's kind of obvious.
Yeah, it is pretty obvious, isn't it? It's one of the biggest trades last year. Someone to compliment DeForest Buckner, I think would be nice. It's Justin Houston. Doesn't look like he's going back. Justin Houston has a visit with Baltimore today, and I think he has a visit with another team later in the week. So I don't think you target someone like Jadeveon Clowney. I think you address pass rush through the draft if you're the Colts in this case. Possibly safety. I know Malik Hooker left them as well, so they may want to look at safety. Offensively, do you go for another weapon, not trusting the fact that Paris Campbell can't stay healthy?
Yeah, I mean, you could, but you could also go with a tackle as well. I mean, what's his name left? One of the better offensive linemen literally just said, I'm done, I'm retiring, which was, to me, crazy, to be honest with you, because he was still young. His name's escaping me again. I do apologize. But, yeah, I think that there's a chance
Costanzo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they need to bring in they could bring in an offensive weapon at the wide receiver position. Like you said, Paris Campbell hasn't really been able to stay healthy. T.Y. Hilton, to me, is just completely washed at this point in his career. I don't think he's any good. I'm surprised he even came back because I read that other teams were willing to give him money as well. So I think Antonio Brown should go to the Colts, but I don't know what he's going to do, to be honest with you. Just hasn't signed anywhere yet. I think the Colts do more need a defensive player, though, and I think that adding someone next to DeForest Buckner would be a good idea. Like you said, safety, Trayvon Moehrig should be available there out of TCU, and that would kind of be a very cookie-cutter pick because it's just simple for them to do that. But I do think that overall the Colts are one of the strongest teams in the AFC, as long as Carson Wentz is good, like you're saying. I mean, I'm not a Carson Wentz apologist. I'm actually more of a Carson Wentz hater. I do not like Carson Wentz,
fine.
But last year, if you look at his number, not his numbers, but the numbers the guys around him, these receivers are terrible. The offensive line is just getting folded like a table in Buffalo every single time. They are it's just terrible. So you really can't judge him. But then you think about, how do they look with Jalen Hurts under center? And they just look so much better. So how much can you blame Wentz? How much can you blame the offense around him? I don't know. But I do think that with Frank Reich, he could be good. So I think just building a strong defense, as long as Wentz doesn't fuck it up too many times where he's throwing a bunch of dumb passes, I think they should be good. So yeah, I kind of agree with you on the defensive side of the ball is where I think they really need to address in the draft.
The only thing I will say, that makes me be positive about Carson Wentz is it was literally just a season ago when he led to the Eagles with the playoffs where not a single receiver got 500 yards.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, he led them to a 9-7. I feel like Carson Wentz was the only thing keeping that offense going, right? And
yeah,
and so if he can do that and then the following year it's just awful, part of it I blame is the roster, but like I said, it's also the hero ball aspect. He doesn't have control of that, and when he had the most control of it was under Frank Reich. So I have optimism that Frank Reich can coach him up, and if he doesn't, I've already said on this show, hey, if Carson Wentz is bad this year, I admit it, I was wrong. Carson Wentz is bad, I'll move on with my life.
Yeah, I mean, this is really the last ride or whatever you want to call it for him. I mean, if he sucks this year, he's done for. He'll never be a starter again. I mean, he'll probably still be in the NFL, right? No guy just retires. I mean, he'll probably just be a second-string quarterback, one of the better ones in the league. But it's like if he can't put it together in Indianapolis with a good with what should be a good defense, with pretty decent weapons, I mean, I don't know what happened to him. It would be an all-time weird collapse of a player to go from potentially winning MVP in getting hurt. They win the Super Bowl, then he just sucks, and now he goes to a good team. And if he sucked again, it would just be the weirdest thing, in my opinion. I think the weirdest thing that happened, and this is just Philadelphia sports in general, is Carson Wentz walked into work every day looking at a Nick Foles statue. Like, how would that make you feel as the franchise guy looking at a backup quarterback statue, like, every day? I mean, to be fair, every time, it just seemed like Foles would just had something in him. That's why he was playing so good. I don't know. I don't even think Foles is that good of a quarterback.
No, not at
I guess
all.
that is tough for Wentz to see, I guess, every single day. I've never even thought about that. Definitely. And the locker room also seemed to be divided because there was definitely guys that would have preferred Foles to keep playing over Wentz, is at least what I heard after that Super Bowl.
I mean, I would imagine so, right? Like, that guy led you to a Super Bowl win. Why not keep going forward with him? So, but then Foles was bad in Jacksonville, and he was bad with Chicago, and this is my shocked face. So, speaking of bad, let's get to some real bad. Oh, one last thing. Colts should. This is hard to say. Should they be in the playoffs back? Should they be back in the playoffs? There we go. Words are hard.
Well, with 7 teams, you would think so, but again, the AFC is just, in my opinion, so much. The
stacked.
NFC last year, you could have literally not. Again, the football team made it, but that's just because the NFC East is so bad. But like teams at the Bears 8-8 literally look atrocious, get spanked by the Saints. They're in the playoffs. I mean, all you really need to do in the NFC is probably win 8-9 games. Now there's 17 games, which adds a complete shake-up to everything. How many games you really have to win now? But I think the Colts should be a team, but I think they're not one of those teams where I'd say it's like a guarantee they make it in. They're going to be fighting for that 7th spot with some other teams that are going to be deserving of making the playoffs. And again, some teams will end up missing.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that one. And you know what I will say about Washington making it in is what's so crazy is they were the team closest to beating the Bucs.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, Heineke played out of his mind.
So that's what's nuts. Washington defense is good. It's a top 5 defense, dude. They just need an offense. So maybe some Fitzmagic will happen this year. So let's move on to the Texans here. So we're not going to talk about the massive universe that's in the room. I'm not even going to call it an elephant. It's the universe that's in the room. Mostly because I don't think it's in our right here at Head Couch Analyst to talk about it, and even Nick over here has said it's. I mean, tell me what you said exactly. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I mean, what I've just been saying is that there's no way to know if he did it or if he didn't do it. So it's better to just not really talk about it because we won't know. It seems like we're not going to know during the draft, so there's probably no way he gets traded, and he's probably just going to be on the Houston Texans until we know what happens, where he will either never play again in the NFL or play again. It's one or the other, and there's no way to know what's going to happen at all, so it's impossible to talk about in any lengths because it's just hard because you don't know if he did it or not, and I don't think we will know for a while until the court figures it all out, so I just don't, in my videos, I don't really ever talk about it. I just bring up, hey, I don't know what the fuck to say about this. Maybe he did it, maybe he didn't, but I don't think anyone should be making a strong take saying either thing, you know?
I agree, because what it comes down to is either he's innocent and it's a huge character assassination,
or he's the biggest asshole ever.
Yeah, he's like one of the most disgusting human beings that's ever existed, right? And because those things are so polar opposite of each other, it's hard to say, oh, well, he's innocent until proven guilty. Well, now you're just discrediting 22 people's opinion. But if you say he's guilty, well, then you're not letting due process happen. So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, we'll see what happens on that aspect. As for the rest of the Texans roster, so we're not going to look at the quarterback situation. Let's just look at the rest of the Texans roster. They made a ton of moves this offseason. I think the Texans made more free agency moves than any other team this offseason. If I remember correctly, they made 13 signings.
They got 2 old running backs, Philip Lindsay, Mark.
Yeah, something ridiculous. So they grabbed Philip Lindsay, which I feel bad because I like Philip Lindsay. I liked him on the Broncos, so I feel bad that he's on the Texans. And then they grabbed Mark Ingram as well, and they also kept David Johnson. So they have David Johnson, Mark Ingram, and Philip Lindsay, and I just those 3 don't feel like they complement each other at all.
Yeah, no, this is one of those teams where I have no idea what they're doing. Genuinely no idea. They traded away DeAndre Hopkins last year. They give the Dolphins all these picks. I honestly don't understand what happened. They were a playoff team last year, right? Not this year. I guess not 2020 or 2019. They're a team that was always making the playoffs, even with Bill O'Brien. Genuinely, this is one of the worst ran franchises I've ever seen. There's not even much to talk about with them because they're just so bad. They don't really have any key players to talk about besides the guy that we're not going to talk about. So it's like what do you even say about the Texans? They bring in Lindsay, like you said, and Lindsay I think is very good as well. He got screwed. Mark Ingram, that's just a veteran presence. David Johnson will be out 4 weeks in the season because he always gets hurt. So it's like, what is so special about this team? Like what is like a shining spot on the team? There's literally none.
I think my biggest problem with the Texans now was my biggest problem 8 months ago, and it's that they don't have a defense. Zero
semblance of a defense.
Last year, besides J.J. Watt and Whitney Mercilus, can you name another defensive player?
No, and you know, it's funny. I watched this video today. It was called Every Texans Interception from 2020. It was 17 seconds.
Was it one by Vernon Hargreaves and that was it?
Yeah, I think it was 2. They might have gotten 2 last year. It was something ridiculous. Like there's other videos like this team's interceptions. It's like 2 minutes long, right? No, this one's 17 seconds. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, and then they had I think they had Bradley Roby as well, but Bradley Roby's height. He's height.
No, he's not that good. He's not that bad.
No, like I said, he's just height. As I'm saying, there's just I won't be surprised if the Texans are 1 in 16 next year or something like that. They just have no direction. Yeah. They have nowhere to go, and they have no draft picks. I was going to say the worst part about the Texans is they're an organization run by a fucking priest. Jack Easterby has single-handedly ruined what was an AFC powerhouse. I feel a lot of people. I don't want to go on this rant because I've gone on this rant on the show before. But I remember when Bill O'Brien got fired, and my first take was it was too early. I understand they were 1-4, but my first take was it was too early. At the time, we didn't know why Hopkins was traded. Come to find out, Easterby didn't think he was very Christ-like, did not think he was a good player for the environment. So Easterby kept demanding McNair that Hopkins be traded. Poor Bill O'Brien.
But, I mean, you can also blame Bill O'Brien for a lot of bad calls. I mean, just remember back a couple of years ago, they were up 21-0 to the Chiefs.
The Chiefs, yeah.
Come on. Bill O'Brien's an idiot, but, I mean, if he was the head coach the whole time last year, I honestly don't know what would have been different. I really don't. Probably would have been the same season.
So here's what I think about Bill O'Brien. I don't think it was all his fault. I also like Bill O'Brien as a play caller, and obviously he's still a good enough play caller because now he's being the offensive coordinator for the best team in college, which is Alabama.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was all his fault. I think he was just a victim of circumstance that with whatever's going on within the organization. Because the GM was fired due to disagreements, and now Bill O'Brien was fired, and who's the one guy left? Oh yeah, it's the one guy that everybody hates within the Texans organization, right? Not everybody hates him, but I mean the players, right? Jack Easterby. So I think their biggest issue is they're run by a voice. I won't say they're run by Easterby, but I guess he is assistant manager of football operations. But they're run by a voice who doesn't know football, or at least doesn't know football as well as he thinks he does. And so in doing so, you sign all these players that have names like Mark Ingram, Philip Lindsay, Bradley Roby, but they're just names. They're not, I think outside of Lindsay, they're not great players. If that makes sense.
I agree.
And for whatever reason, I mean, you had to let J.J. Watt go. J.J. Watt was clearly done. But you let Hopkins go. You let, what was it? They traded away Laramie Tunsil, didn't they?
He's gone now. He's going somewhere. He went to Seattle, I believe, and then he's going somewhere else after. Right now, he's going somewhere else.
Oh wait, I looked. He's still with the Texans. I thought they had gotten. No, he's still.
With the really?
Texans. Yes, he's still with the Texans. Okay. No, there's just a lot wrong with the Texans, and I think until they have an actual coach, which by the way, this is no offense to David Culley, but I'm a Ravens fan. Okay. David Culley was the quarterback's coach of the Ravens. I had no clue. He was a coach on my roster until it said former Ravens quarterback coach is now head coach of the Texans. And I was like, come again? Who's this guy? And I immediately looked him up. And he wasn't even like the quarterback's coach. He was the assistant quarterback's coach. And I'm like, they just hired an assistant quarterback's coach to be head coach in Houston. It's some real Freddie Kitchens vibes, man.
What's funny is I forgot that the Dolphins made a trade with them like about a month ago, and the best player on Houston's defense is Shaq Lawson, the guy the Dolphins had, and we got their best player in I don't even know, Benedrick McKinney. He's actually pretty solid inside linebacker, but it's like they really have no one. Like, what is Shaq Lawson going to do for your defense? I mean, Shaq Lawson was like not even that great for the Dolphins, but he's still the best player on Houston's defense now. It's like, it's a shame for that guy, honestly, having to get traded there.
Yeah, essentially, here's what my analysis comes down to. The Texans are probably picking within the top 3 next year. They have so many holes, it's not even funny, and their best player may or may not be playing because we don't know his situation at all, so... And even if, let's just say he is, let's just imagine the scenario where he is innocent. Is he still going to play for the Texans, or is he going to give him the big middle finger and sit out and pay $20 million in fines because he can?
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah. Let's go into the more exciting bottom tier team of the AFC South. I'm actually really excited by the Jaguars. I like where they're looking. They just hired Urban Meyer. They got the number 1 pick. Assumingly they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. I mean, we're assuming, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's minus 6,000 to go to the Jaguars, so you have to assume he's going there.
Yeah, we assume he's going there. But after that, what do the Jaguars need to address? What do they need? I'm actually going to let you start off with this first. What do you think the Jaguars need here?
Well, what's interesting is a lot of people are talking about how they should draft a wide receiver, but to me, that's something that I don't think they need at all. They brought in Marvin Jones in free agency, and I think Marvin Jones is a very good number 2 wide receiver, if not number 1 on the team. Now, I do understand they do have DJ Chark, who to me is pretty solid. Obviously didn't have the greatest year last year, but what do you expect when for some reason they're benching Gardner Minshew, who's a guy we should talk about? I feel bad for him. For Glennon, the guy with the giraffe neck, and then Laviska Shenault is also there. So I think they have a solid 2-3 wide receivers on that team that could be good. So I don't think they really need wide receivers. I think the best thing they should do is address offensive line. They have the youngest defense in the NFL, and we actually saw some semblance of greatness out of that defense, especially week 1 against the Colts. They really had Rivers by the nuts in that game, and they ended up beating them, I believe. That was the one win the Jaguars had. How many wins did they have last year? 1 or 2, something like that?
Jaguars? 1. Exact. You want
one.
You want a game they won?
The one against the Colts, right?
Yeah, week 1.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
You know why that was a slap in the face? Because I said, literally the week before, I said, Jaguars are going 0-16, book it. And they went 1-0 and never won a game after that. Biggest slap in my face.
The biggest slap in my face was when they lost the final week. They had the Colts by the balls yet again. The Dolphins could have made the playoffs, but instead they choked it.
They choked it away.
Yeah, but again, going back to the Jags, they need a tight end, and I believe they can actually draft Pat Fairmath in the second round. They should be able to get him. He's a very solid tight end, good at blocking as well. Should be very helpful for Lawrence. I think offensive line is a need as well, but besides that, they do have a young defense, so you can really just add any pieces to that defense. But I think O-line should be something they should try to address in the first round. Obviously, they have the first pick. And then they have a pick later in the first round, somewhere in the 20s. Again, terrible at remembering the numbers exactly where each team picks. But a guy like Tevin Jenkins, Samuel Cosmi, someone to just fit on that offensive line should really help out Trevor Lawrence. And I think this team, the turnaround shouldn't be all that long. Sure, obviously, it's not going to be, they're not going to get Lawrence next year and make the playoffs. Obviously, they could, right? Anything's possible in the NFL, but I don't think that Lawrence instantly turns them around. But I think maybe 2-3 years down the line, this is a really good team. And if Wentz sucks, then the Colts are where the Jaguars were, and the Jaguars are very good instead. What do you think about the Jags?
I think the Jaguars have a great future heading for them, which is weird to say. I haven't been this optimistic about the Jaguars in a long time, which is why I think they're exciting. There's one need I feel like they need on the defense. Like they have Miles Jack and Jack Schobert or John Schobert, whatever his name is, right in the linebacker core. But I think they need like a true middle linebacker, like a I don't want to say C.J. Mosley because C.J. Mosley isn't that anymore.
Yeah.
You know who like the type I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like a Luke Kuechly type, right? Not like a pass rushing linebacker, that middle linebacker who
Kuechly. Luke Kuechly, you silly.
My bad. Yeah, oh no, I fucked up his name. Yeah, Luke.
No,
Kuechly.
it's fine. I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, no. I totally fucked his name up. You're right to call me out on that one. Like a Luke Kuechly kind of thing, right? That would be kind of nice. I'm not saying he has to be that elite talent, but a strong player in that middle of the defense I think would be great. I'm totally with you. Offensive line, protect your quarterback, whoever the hell they are. They need to be protected. And you're absolutely right. I've slammed Gardner Minshew not because of his play. I just think the dude's looks are overrated and overhyped. I don't understand the appeal of his looks. And then that picture was posted 2 days ago of him like against like a farm town fence, shirtless, and I'm like, great. More people are going to go nuts over this. That's not the point. I like him as a person. I think he's a funny guy, and I really like his gunslinger mentality. He just needs to really improve his decision-making, but I think, he kind of got screwed by the situation. They were clearly playing to lose by benching him on purpose and playing Mike Lennon instead. But we're assuming they draft Trevor Lawrence, right? For a little bit of time, I was thinking they play the card where they think they're smarter than everyone and draft Justin Fields just because of the Urban Meyer connection. Because Urban Meyer...
I doubt that. I mean, it is possible. Anything's possible, literally. They could just fucking draft literally anyone, but I don't know. I feel like it's almost locked in now that it's Lawrence.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a lock in now, but like I don't know for sure. I don't know if like media is just assuming they pick him, and that's just what it is, right? Like number one pick is locked up, so it's all about like, well, who did the Jets pick at number 2? Is it Zach Wilson or we don't really know. So I don't think there's anything else I have to say like about Jacksonville other than that. I think they have a bright future heading around them, but as you said, this is kind of you gotta wait till 2023 to really see what's going to happen with them. I do have to ask you, what do you think of Urban Meyer?
He doesn't seem like a nice guy, right?
As an Ohio State fan, I can tell you, no, he's not.
No, I mean, I don't have any strong feelings. Like, what was their old coach's name? Fuck, his name's Doug Marrone. Right? He was like an okay. I don't know why he got fired, to be honest with you. It's not his fault that they wanted to tank, right? If they put in Gardner Minshew, they would have won 5-6 games, probably.
I think the problem is Doug Marrone was there for 3 or 4 seasons, and he had one decent season, and that was it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, Urban Meyer, to me, is nothing special. Has he ever been an NFL coach? I don't know. I've only thought of him in my head as the Florida Gators head coach and the head coach of Ohio State. I could be wrong. Maybe he's been a head coach of other teams. Probably has.
He's never been in the NFL before. Never.
Yeah, never been an NFL coach. Normally, he's one of those guys that just fakes an injury after his team sucks, which is actually pretty funny. But, yeah, I think he's just an all-right head coach. I don't see anything special in him, but there's also much worse guys that could be your head coach, in my opinion, than Urban Meyer. So just kind of indifferent on him in reality. I don't think I will even have a strong take until I see him coach in the NFL, probably.
I think the most interesting thing about him is that his offenses have always been fantastic. I mean, this is a guy who has led, sore quarterbacks like Tim Tebow and what's his name? It's an Ohio State quarterback who turned into a wide receiver.
Dwayne Haskins. Oh, no.
I wasn't thinking Dwayne Haskins. I was thinking it was an Ohio State quarterback who turned into a wide receiver. He was a terrible Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, Terrell Pryor.
I'm saying like people like Terrell Pryor and people like this who like looked like amazing quarterbacks in college, but they're horrible in the NFL. So if he can make those guys work, then who knows what he can do when he has an actual quarterback talent, right? So I don't know what to say about him. I'm not going to be an Ohio State biased fan and tell you he's going to be great, because anytime a great college coach has come to the NFL, it's always been Like, I think the biggest ones I could think of was Chip Kelly coming in. And he worked for, 2 seasons? He had 2 10-6 seasons, and then after that, it was just, we figured it out. You play fast. All right, we'll do this instead. Right? That's just all it came down to. And then Nick Saban was here for 2 years with the Dolphins. Was it 2 or 1?
Saban? I think it was just 1, and then he decided, you know what, let's not get Drew Brees. Let's get Dante Culpepper instead,
Yeah, so... So that's the AFC South.
Yeah. There's not much to say about the Jags, sorry.
I thought you were about to go on, so...
No, all I was going to say was that I'm not sure if Saban was just 1 year, but that guy literally fucked the Dolphins for years ahead. Because if we had Mr. Breeze, I would assume that maybe he would have won the Super Bowl with us. That's all.
Quite possible. If I remember correctly, I think he was your coach for 2 years, 2005 and 2006.
Yeah, I was also 5 years old during that time. So.
See, not that you'd remember in the first place, right?
Yeah.
All right, so speaking of the Dolphins, let's move on to the AFC East, and let's talk about the reigning winners right now, which is the Buffalo Bills. They just made the AFC Championship. They're coming off a loss to the Chiefs. They also lost me $50 because I didn't think the Chiefs were going to make the Super Bowl this year. It was more about betting against the Chiefs than it was betting for the Bills, but I still made a mistake anyway in betting on the Bills because they did not turn out against the Chiefs. They, in fact, stayed home, and they just decided to, maybe fold some tables or jump on some tables or whatever the hell it is they do in Buffalo these days. I don't know anymore, dude. Bills Mafia is fucking insane. Yeah. So, looking at the Bills' roster needs, though, so they traded for Stephon Diggs last year, and if you've been in a cave, for the last year and a half, then you would know that Stephon Diggs was arguably, outside of DeAndre Hopkins, probably the greatest grab from last year, and it made the Bills instant Super Bowl contenders, right? They made the AFC Championship doing so, but now we need to reflect on what the 2020 season was, and shockingly, I found myself surprised that their defense was not as good as advertised. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, their defense, to me, is nothing super special. I mean, sure, they're not a terrible defense, right? They're not just going to get bent over by any team. Obviously, the Chiefs, very good team that ended up beating them, obviously, to go to the Super Bowl, in which they lost to the Bucs. But another team's defense, kind of similar to the Bills, that I thought was going to be really good that disappointed me, was the Browns. Kind of similar. I really thought that this was going to be a really strong Buffalo defense, that maybe Josh Allen wouldn't need to throw the ball as much. But then obviously it was the complete opposite. The offense is slinging the ball. This is the best Josh Allen we've seen. I think he's going to continue to get better. I love Josh Allen, even as a Dolphins fan, but I completely agree. The defense is not as good as advertised. I assume they're going to get better because they have a nice pick in the draft, even though, sure, it's later in the first round, where they could really address some of the needs on defense. But, yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying. I don't think that the defense is what anyone really thought it would be, considering it finished pretty strong, at least from my memory, in 2019.
I mean, if you ask me, their biggest move of this offseason probably puts them in Super Bowl contention again, which was getting Mitchell Trubisky to be their backup quarterback. No.
A Nickelodeon valuable player.
Dude, yes, the MVP, and the one and only MVP is the backup to the Bills. So, if Josh Allen goes down, they're fine. They're just fine. No, really what I think might push them over the edge offensively was them getting Emmanuel Sanders. I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is washed. He's not what he was, but I don't think he's washed. I think he's a great possession receiver, and I think that was the exact kind of pickup they need. And while I do have a soft spot for John Brown, I think Emmanuel Sanders is better than John Brown. So I like that pickup, if that makes sense for them. When it comes to, like, defense, I feel like I'm saying this for every team, and I don't mean to, but it's kind of true for a lot of these teams. They need a pass rush. The Bills were not great at getting after the quarterback. Last year, they started off really slow in 2020. They kind of turned things around near the end of the season, and they had one of the better pass rushes. I think they had like a top 5 unit by the end of the season. But you need to consistently have a pass rush throughout the season. So I feel like if they had like... They obviously can't get this in free agency, but if they were to draft a player who turns into like some sort of elite pass rusher, or a guy who's a great rotational player and gives veterans like Jerry Hughes some, snaps off, I think that keeps Hughes fresh for the season, and that keeps their rotation of players on that defensive line better. And I think that was kind of what was severely lacking against the Chiefs, at least when I'm comparing it to the Chiefs game. Other games, they were fine. Like, they were fine against the Ravens before that. They were fine against,
Against the Dolphins,
it was you that they played
really
week 17, right?
Yeah, they were perfectly fine. But,
yeah,
we just got destroyed the whole game. I mean, Tua really stood no chance. They were up by 1 million, and then Tua's have to throw to these receivers that can't do it. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but yeah, they really stood no chance to the Bills' defense. The Bills' defense was standing on its head in that game, and they didn't even need to, because Josh Allen threw like 3 touchdowns in fucking a quarter and a half, and then sat on the bench, and Matt Barkley torched us. So,
question: do you think it's about time they actually get Josh Allen a real tight end that's not named Dawson Knox?
Yeah, it is, but this isn't the year to do it, right? I mean, unless they draft... I mean, there's really only one good tight end, which might be the best tight end to come out of college ever in Pitts, but they do need a tight end. They're not going to be able to get one. They should have brought in Janu, I think, or Hunter Henry. I mean, imagine how good they would have been with that, but I think they go linebacker in the draft. I typically mock them, Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. Now, he's not some type of super player. No one's ranking him as like the number 1 linebacker, but I do think that's a very interesting pick for their team. But I do agree they could also go and get really anything on the defensive line. If they were to go interior defensive line, I think Christian Barrimore out of Alabama, if you watch the national championship, he was literally he owned Justin Fields during that game. So it would be very interesting to see that as well.
Do you think they could end up going for Zach Ertz at all?
Zach Ertz, I don't know where he's going. I thought he was going to Indianapolis. I've drafted him on a bunch of my like best ball drafts, thinking he's going to go there, but maybe I'm just wrong and he's just going to go somewhere else.
All right. Well, I think we got their needs, right? Do you think possibly they pick up someone like because they got the 29th pick? Do you think maybe they pick up someone like Greg Newsome or Asante Samuel, or maybe even if Caleb Farley drops down?
Yeah, no, they definitely could. I don't know. I feel like they're one of those teams that, I mean, obviously they don't need a quarterback, don't need a receiver. I personally want them to draft a running back. Now, they obviously don't have to. They have Singletary and Moss. But to me, neither of those guys are like sexy names, right? You think of Devin Singletary, you're not thinking about a guy who's going to rush for 100 yards a game, right?
No.
But you look at a picture of Najee Harris, you're like, that's a guy who's going to rush for 100 yards.
Or Travis Etienne or something.
Or Etienne or Javonte Williams. Any of those guys are guys that are legitimate playmakers in the NFL that completely change your offense. Now, again, I do not believe they will draft him, any of those guys. But I do think that would be the most interesting pick to really change the Bills' offense. They're not going to draft a receiver. I think Cole Beasley is severely underrated. Now, again, he's just a slot guy, so you're not really going to get super excited for Cole Beasley. But with Diggs and all this stuff, the offense is very good. So if they do draft anyone, it's probably going to be someone on defense.
I mean, I have a soft spot for Cole Beasley. I loved him even when he was on the Cowboys. He's just a receiver who I've always thought was a guy who doesn't get enough credit for what he does. And after I found out he played on a torn, patellar tendon? I think that's how you say it. Man,
yeah.
Holy shit, dude. Damn. Not human. Not human at all. So, all right. So that's the Bills. All right. Let's get to the Dolphins. I'm going to let you take over. You're the Dolphins guy over here.
All right. Well, with the Dolphins, to be honest with you, I don't think I have much to say. The Dolphins last year should have been a playoff team. Obviously missed. It's okay. I understand. They lost the Bills. They didn't deserve to be in after they lost the Bills. If they lost a close game to the Bills and they didn't make it, I would have been pissed. But I knew for a fact if the Bills, we beat the Bills, we would have probably played the Bills again the next week. The Bills would have absolutely soaked us if the game was close. I think the Dolphins are ready to be a playoff team. Our coach, to me, is one of the best coaches in the league. Tua is going to, in my opinion, hopefully become good and play much better like he did in college. I think our biggest need is the wide receiver position. Our team needs pass catchers. Gesicki is good, right? The tight end.
Yes.
Devontae Parker is okay. He's okay. A lot of people were sucking him off for what he did the season before, 2019, and I did not agree. I did not agree that Devontae Parker was something special. Turns out in 2020, guess what? He's not something special, just like I thought. Preston Williams is good, but he is always injured. So what we do, in my opinion, is we have to draft either Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase. If we draft Jamar Chase, then you trade Devontae Parker for whatever you can get, because Devontae Parker plays the same role that Jamar Chase plays, and having two of the same guys on this offense is not going to work.
Hey, I'll take him for a third or fourth round pick. We need a wide receiver, dude.
They do. No, the Ravens do. But I think that Pitts, to me, would be my favorite pick. He's a guy that plays tight end, so we can run two tight end set, but he's also more of a wide receiver. This guy's fucking huge. He played amazing at Florida. There are going to be people that say, oh, he only played good against, like, his big games were up against these garbage teams. I understand. But what do you want him to do bad against these garbage teams, right? Do you want him to play terrible against Vanderbilt that can't even play defense at all? No, you want him to play really good. So I think Pitts is our pick in the first round. I think another position we need offense, strictly offense. I do think we can draft literally anything, though, on defense. I think that we are soon going to see Xavier Howard exit the Dolphins. He should have won Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. He literally had like 10 interceptions. I've never seen something so crazy. The Dolphins picked off Mahomes 3 times in that game against the Chiefs. We still lost, but it was a good game.
One of those interceptions was insane.
Yeah, that was Howard. He literally caught, like, he did the Odell catch.
Yeah.
But he was the corner. But yeah, I think Howard might be gone, so I think we could draft corner at pick 18. I think the Dolphins just need to load up on offense. But Flores is a defensive-minded head coach, so to all the Dolphins fans, like myself, who want to draft running back Najee Harris at pick 18, now this is assuming that Waddle, Chase, and Smith are gone, because if Smith is there and the Dolphins draft him, I will probably die, like, of happiness. This will be the greatest Dolphins team we've ever seen, obviously. But I want to draft Najee Harris, but again, Flores is a defensive-minded head coach, so that motherfucker might just fuck around and draft, like, Jeremiah Osu-Koromaya, linebacker out of Notre Dame, who I like a lot. That guy, if you've ever seen any tape of this guy, he's like what you do in Madden. Like when you hit stick guys, he's just the human hit stick. He just always hit sticks people, makes them fumble. It's amazing. But I think the Dolphins really need wide receivers. None of the guys there are going to cut it besides Gesicki and Parker. And again, like I said, Parker is not the guy for the future. I think the Dolphins are in a good spot. I think Tua really turns it up. I think our offensive line is good. Not the greatest, but again, very young. So the chance of them getting much better this year is pretty high. Obviously, Sewell, we could pick him, but I honestly think we're good with just drafting wide receivers in the first round or running back. What do you think about the Dolphins? I mean, I think we're a pretty well-rounded team. The defense was amazing last year, and I think it can continue to be great in 2021. It's really just all on Tua. Not really all on Tua, I would say, because it's more on the receivers actually catching the ball when he throws it to him.
So I take it back. I'm glad Pardue's not on this episode because Pardue hates Tua, man. He hates Tua.
Yeah, I bet you he hated losing to us too, right?
Got him.
Yeah,
no,
Tua played better than Kyler, right?
No, but I don't know, dude. I still like Kyler more than Tua, but I like Tua. I do like Tua, but I will say I think as of right now, to be fair, Tua was a rookie with like so many games, and Kyler was in his full second season. But I think Kyler's better at the moment. We'll see what Tua can do. My problem with Tua, despite the fact that stats do say he was a great deep ball thrower, the film just kind of says otherwise. Not looking at stats, just looking at film. Right? When I watch quarterbacks, I go, you get it, man. You're a massive football junkie. I'm a massive football junkie. When I'm not teaching or coaching basketball, and I have not looked as much film this offseason as I like to, Because with coaching basketball, I have no fucking time in my life. Like, I go to school, I start teaching, then I have practice at 4:30. At 3:30 to 6, or sometimes 3:30 to 5, depending upon if we're lazy and we just want to end practice early and the kids get their stuff done. But I don't get home till like 6:30, and then I gotta make dinner. And by the time you think I wanna watch football, I mean, not really. I kind of just want to relax instead of doing this like hobby. But so probably this summer is when I'll dive into quarterbacks film. But when I've watched Tua's quarterbacks film, I really like his short to intermediate throws. I think he's a very accurate passer. He's a very mobile guy. And I think he's smart with the football. I think that his greatest factor in his rookie season, I think, was also his worst. He doesn't turn over the ball, but he doesn't turn over the ball, I think, because he just didn't throw with any balls this year, and I want to see that change. I want to see him make more riskier plays. I want to see him thread the needle more often. I want to see him launch it kind of like Kyler Murray did last year in his coming rookie season. I mean, if you look at quarterbacks the last few years, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, I mean, you could even count Justin Herbert this year, I guess. Joe Burrow this year. But all these guys who in their first and second years just, they showed they could launch the ball, and they started to, right? It's kind of weird for me to say that about Lamar Jackson, but that was like literally the first play of the game. You would know that. That was like his first throw of the season.
When he threw it to Hollywood Brown against the Dolphins.
Yeah, right. Like the whole goal was to show, hey, he could throw the ball, right? But I want to see Tua do that. I want him to come out and just sling that ball. Now, is he that type of quarterback? That's kind of for us to see, right? But I think he's a smart quarterback who definitely play Tom Brady style football. That's kind of the quarterback I envision him to be. I envision him to be more like Drew Brees.
I think he's better than that. The thing though is he was making a lot of these long throws, but the thing is these guys aren't catching it.
Oh no, not at all.
He's hitting the fucking ball on these guys like hands, and they're dropping it. And then I think that's what scares him from throwing it too. Is he'll throw it like twice in a game, someone drops it twice, and he's like, dude, what am I supposed to do? Then he just starts dumping it off.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
I know what you're saying, but from the film this year, I think he could become an elite, like, death by paper cuts quarterback, which, I mean, it's not the most exciting thing to watch, but it won Tom Brady 7 Super Bowls, so, who am I to say anything against that style quarterback play, right? And that's what Drew Brees has adapted into over his last several years of his career, right? He went from being a deep ball launcher to a death by paper cuts kind of guy. That's what a lot of these quarterbacks do once their arm strength starts waning, right? Is they turn into this, what's the word I'm looking for? It's something
kind of a game manager quarterback.
No, I'm not thinking game manager. I'm thinking it's a term used like with your mind. A cerebral player. You become more of a cerebral player than an athletic player, right? Like I would never call Tom Brady a game manager. I just think he's very cerebral. He knows what the defense is going to do more often than not, and he knows where to go with the ball. Then again, Tom Brady's still kind of dropping dimes here and there occasionally, but we're still talking about Tua here, and I feel like Tua can be that type of guy who's really excellent on the short to medium throws. I just want to see his long range develop, if that makes sense. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody Tua's not the guy. I mean, there's a lot of awful tape on him, but there's also a lot of really good tape on him as well. And I think if he can develop his strengths, Tua can be the guy. I like Tua. I'm not like my co-host. I like Tua, but I need to see him develop. This also might be part of a promise I made to myself to no longer slander quarterbacks. After watching Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill, and a couple of these other guys like not really blossom till year 4, year 5, I've kind of come to the conclusion, okay, maybe I need to wait till year 4, year 5 to really start judging quarterbacks, right? So,
yeah.
And Josh Allen's a great example of that too, right? Like we thought, oh, he's awful after first 2 years, right? What the hell is he going to do year 3? Oh, well, he improved his accuracy by like 18% and was in the MVP running.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Josh Allen, but I definitely agree. I mean, he didn't really, he showed stuff, right? He has, the extreme arm strength, but he was just missing guys. And like you said, once his accuracy went up a shit ton, he's just amazing. But more back on Tua, I think that the leash on Tua is so small because I know Brian Flores knows exactly how long our team has. We have 3 years, this 3-year window. And if Tua fucks up this year and next year, Tua's done. In my opinion, he has a short leash, and we will bring someone else in who can do it. Now, I don't know who else that would be. I have no idea. There was talks about Russell Wilson coming to Miami. I hated that. I'd rather have Tua because, in my opinion, Russell Wilson is just an older version of what Tua could be.
Yeah, I agree.
Then there was talk about the guy who we didn't talk about coming to Miami. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. But Tua is the guy for now, and I think that if he fucks it up this year, maybe he's only given one more chance because I don't think we see Tua play 4 or 5 years in Miami if he doesn't pick it up because Flores is the kind of guy that doesn't fuck around with that. We saw it last year. Tua plays like shit. Ryan Fitzpatrick is in, and we win the game. He should have beaten if Fitzpatrick beat the Broncos, we were in the playoffs. He should have beaten the Broncos. Tua should have beaten the Broncos, but Tua decided to go out and say, the NFL is too easy. He said something so dumb. I wish I remembered exactly what he said. He said, the NFL is easier to understand than I thought. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. He plays like shit against the Broncos. We lose the game that we should have won. Again, I digress. I think Tua will be fine, though. And I think that this is a huge year for him because I think this year there's also a limited leash on him because Jacoby Brissett's behind him, and Jacoby Brissett can do exactly what the Dolphins need, which is just, like you said, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Hand the ball off, make these short passes. He doesn't throw picks. So we could literally win the Super Bowl with Jacoby Brissett. So I'm not really all that concerned because I think Tua should be able to beat out Jacoby Brissett and play much better. But Brissett is a guy that Tua needs to be worried about, which is good that we have him on our team.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want my outsider's perspective, I like Tua. I'm optimistic about Tua, right? But I'm also not – like last year, I was riding Kyler Murray. I was like, this is it. The Cardinals are going to be a playoff team this year. It infuriates me that all they had to do was beat the 49ers or Rams, and they couldn't do either of those things. That Kyler Murray that Kyler Murray interception in the end zone against the 49ers week 16 blows my mind. Like, you just can't do – anyway. Sorry, I'm like reminiscing now. I was really heavily on Kyler Murray going into this last offseason. I'm not that way going into Tua, but I am cautiously optimistic, if that makes sense. I like enough of what I see from him to say, yes, I want to see a full season of him. I want him to have a full offseason with his receivers, with Gesicki, Parker, etc., and I want to see what Tua does moving forward, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, Tua's bad, forget about him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's no way to really – I know people online are like, he's trash, but to me, there's no way you can really make a take on a guy who played, he went 6-3, played 9 games. How can anyone hate that guy? Say he's terrible.
I will say the one other great attribute about him is I love his release. His release is one of the quickest in the NFL, and that is a great way to get an offense going. If you can do quick throws, like, straight up the middle, right off the line, that corners can't react to, and you get your game going, build your confidence, great attribute to have as a quarterback. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about him. But like I said, I want to see him be more aggressive.
Yeah, he's also lefty, which is very confusing to watch, to be honest with you, because it's very hard to watch because I'm so used to everyone's righty in the NFL. So seeing someone drop back and move to the left instead of move, it's just very weird to watch. I don't know why, but it's because I'm just not used to it. I mean, I don't watch that much college football. I'm sure there's not that many lefties in college football, but it's just a whole different vibe of watching the game.
Yeah, definitely is. All right, let's go to – oh, my God, I forgot their names for half a second.
Probably the Patriots.
Yeah, it's the New England Patriots. I don't know why I forgot their names. So, big news for the New England Patriots. Julian Edelman retired, which means they need a receiver really badly. Going into this season, I was like, you know what, Edelman will get healthy. I really liked Cam Newton for the first 5 weeks, and then he got COVID, and I don't know what happened after that. They had one of the best rushing teams in the league last year. I was really optimistic about the Patriots going into this year, actually, and then they spent all this big money. I'm like, damn, Patriots are coming back with a force, dude. Cam Newton will be – I honestly think Cam Newton will be better. I'm not like a Cam Newton, apologist. I'm not a Cam Newton defender. I've actually usually been against Cam Newton because I just don't like him as a person. So there's kind of bias on that part. And I think he's been washed ever since 2015. I think he had 6 good games in 2017, and then he got hurt again. So I've just never been a big Cam Newton fan. But I really liked what I saw from him the first 5 weeks. I'm like, you know what? Give him a full offseason that's not a COVID offseason. Julian Edelman's coming back. They're going to have this monstrous defense. Watch out for the Patriots. Well, now that Edelman's gone and he just retired 2 hours ago, I don't know anymore, dude. Newton has nobody to throw to. That's a massive problem, right? If I understand, good defense, good running game, fine. But if you don't have anyone to throw to, you're not doing much in this league. Let's be honest. The worst games that we've seen are the games where passing games choke. I can tell you enough about Ravens playoff games. You could just look at the Super Bowl last year. The passing game for the Chiefs completely choked and they looked horrible, right? When your passing game completely fails you, you're not going to win the game, right? I don't care if your identity is run the ball and defense. Trust me, I love that. I'm a Ravens fan. That's been our motto for 25 years. Play defense, run the ball, but you still got to be able to throw it occasionally, right? I don't know who the Patriots are going to throw to, dude. When I say they need wide receiver, I mean they need like 5.
Yeah, I mean, they brought in Aguilar, they brought in Kendrick Bourne, but those are not sexy names. Those are just names.
Aguilar's okay.
That play football in the NFL. Those are just names. I mean, Nelson Aguilar's okay. Kendrick Bourne has only ever shown that he will just randomly show up in a game. Jimmy Garoppolo will throw him a touchdown. That's about it, right? I've never seen anything out of him that makes me happy. I mean, I hate the Patriots, so I hope they stink. I really do. I hope they win 0 games. I can't stand them. Actually, no, I hope they win like 6 games so that they can't draft the best quarterback coming out. Actually, that's what I do hope. But I think that Cam Newton, like you said, he's actually okay. But I genuinely believe that Cam Newton's not the guy starting this year. I think that the Patriots either make a move to draft a quarterback or Jimmy Garoppolo is their quarterback. So to me, it's hard to assess what we're going to see without knowing exactly who the quarterback is, because I don't think Belichick is sold in on Cam.
$14 million this year? Didn't they like double his salary?
Yeah, but who cares, right? They have so much money. So much money. How else could they have gotten Aguilar well, they do have Hunter Henry and Janu, who should be good. But again...
Oh, I completely forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Who knows if Cam Newton has it still? Like last year, he was only good at running. He threw like 7 touchdowns or something. How do you throw 7 touchdowns in like 15 games?
Because he didn't throw any in the last half of the season. His touchdowns came in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that he's terrible, right? He's still like an NFL starting quarterback, but so is other names, right, of guys that aren't very good. Jared Goff, he's still a starting. Jared Goff is better than Cam Newton, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just not bought in on the Patriots. They brought in all these people, and Bill Belichick always seems to be right. So my mind thinks that the Patriots are still going to be good. They probably will be, but I don't know how this offense is going to work with Janu and Hunter Henry, because both Hunter Henry is notoriously injury prone.
Yeah.
And Janu has never broken out to what we wanted. Last year, I think I told you this, I really liked Janu Smith in fantasy, but he was never really the guy, right? He was getting hurt. He was playing. He'd have big flashes of games, and then the next game, this guy's Houdini, he disappears, right? Doesn't do anything. So I don't know how this offense is going to work, and if Cam Newton can't air the ball out, then I really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
That's just how I feel.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure either, dude. I'm going to say something slightly controversial that I've already had the fantasy community tear me up for. You should be in my opinion, you should be picking up Jonnu Smith as your tight end in fantasy. And the reason why is because Josh McDaniels perfected the 2 tight end system. I understand Gronkowski is an all-timer. I get it. And Aaron Hernandez is immensely talented. I get it.
Stone cold killer Aaron Hernandez on the field.
Yes. But I think Jonnu Smith and Aaron Hernandez, when you watch their games compared to each other, the difference is Hunter Henry is not Rob Gronkowski, right?
Yeah.
But McDaniels is the guy, and it's not being quarterbacked by Tom Brady, but this is still a guy who created that masterful style of game plan that had these game-wrecking, 2 tight end sets, right? And I think Josh McDaniels can do that again. I understand. Yeah. I understand. It's not Tom Brady throwing. I get that the name is not Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, but my point is that the play caller is still there, and I think play calling is a heavy factor into this, and that's what got me excited by the Henry and Jonnu Smith signings. like I said, I already got my eyes set on Johnny Smith for fantasy. Every year, I always pick a tight end to set my eyes on. You know this. We talked about this last year, right? There's always that one tight end I have my eyes set on. Unfortunately, I was wrong on last year's because mine was what's his face on the Broncos.
No fan. Mine was Hayden Hurst. That was also wrong.
Yeah. We both got screwed on that one.
But I'm.
Go on.
You can go. Sorry.
I was gonna say I can see why you wanted Hayden Hurst. I mean, Matt Ryan to Hayden Hurst sounds like a fan-freaking-tastic connection to me. Just didn't work out the way we had wanted. One question for you on the Patriots. What do you think of Jacoby Myers at receiver? There's a lot of hype for him, and I don't get it.
I mean, like, when you look at it realistically, right, he's not bad, right? But with Cam Newton, I don't think any of these guys... That's why I'm afraid to draft a guy like Jonnu Smith in fantasy. I mean, like, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not someone who drafts typically 2 tight ends on my team. I just take my one shot, and if it's wrong, then I just pick up someone new every single week, right? So I'm not the kind of person who's going to take the shot on Jonnu and then draft someone else. But I do think that a guy like Jonnu could be really good. But Jacoby Myers is the kind of player that doesn't wow me, but it's also like I had no idea who he was, and he was really good. I don't know if you had any idea who he was before this year, because I didn't. He wasn't even on my radar.
No.
He wasn't a guy that I would talk about. To me, he might still be the best wide receiver on this team. Frankly, I think Nelson Aguilar is actually pretty good. But besides that, he's probably the clear number 2. But with Cam Newton, how much can you rely on any of these receivers to get the ball? And I think every week it's going to be someone different, because it seems like, I know in the past, right, you had Greg Olsen and Cam Newton. That was a big combo on that team. He was always throwing the ball to him. But when Greg Olsen's out, right, who was he throwing it to? He was throwing it to everyone. So he seems like not the kind of guy who's just going to zero in on one guy. So I think Jacoby Myers is a talented player, but I don't think he's ever going to put up the numbers he put up last year with these other wide receivers and these other weapons on the team. I mean, like, even Henry and Jonnu are just miles above, in my opinion, what Jacoby Myers is.
All right, that's fair. So I think most of our pickiness is on offense, not defense, right?
No, the defense is very good. Unless, of course, Gilmore gets traded, which is also the rumor. Maybe they trade Gilmore and picks to go up and get a guy like Trey Lance or Justin Fields, something like that. Again, it's impossible to figure out what the hell is going to happen in the draft. They'll tell you, like, the media will be like, oh, this is going to happen. We have a good inside source on this, and it never fucking happens, right?
You know nothing on Bill Belichick. That's how I always feel. You know nothing.
With any team, especially the Patriots, I literally have no idea what's going to happen. Frankly, no idea. So it's hard to talk about them until the draft ends. I think the Patriots will end up making the playoffs probably, because that's just what they do. But I hope they suck. That's all I've got.
The biggest thing I will say about the Patriots is, would you agree this was one of the worst rosters last year?
Yeah, by far. But
they still went 7-9 because that's how good Bill Belichick is. That's the thing, though. Is
if you think about it, like, maybe Tom Brady would have taken them to the playoffs. Like, I'm not like, maybe he would have. You honestly just never know, because Brady seems like he can do anything with any bum receivers. But last year, obviously, he had like the best receivers in the NFL in Godwin and Evans. Now, not the 2 best players, but I'm talking like, on a combination standpoint, one of the best combos.
Yeah, Gronkowski, Brown, Evans.
Oh yeah,
and Godwin. Yeah.
I wasn't even including those guys, but yeah, of course, fucking Gronk and Antonio Brown, like they were insane.
And they brought them all back. So I mean, Brown's not a starter, but they brought all the starters on offense back.
I don't think Brown signed yet. So
yeah, but he wasn't a starter. Was my point. They brought all the starters back. So
yeah, he should be a starter though. To me, Antonio Brown has also gotten a raw deal in the NFL. I mean, the guy seems kind of crazy, right? Obviously.
Yeah, a little bit.
But, I mean, to me, he's still one of the best receivers in the NFL. I genuinely think if he was the number 1 guy on the Dolphins, he would score 7 million points. Oh, and also, I forgot to talk about with the Dolphins, we signed Will Fuller. That's a great signing to me, but it's high risk, high reward, because he's very injury prone and is very fast. I think he could be good with Tua. But I also wouldn't be surprised if, since he's not on PEDs anymore, he sucks. So that's really my take on him. Sorry for not talking about him earlier. I forgot.
No worries. So is there anything else left on the Patriots? It's kind of a big mystery other than like, hey, this is their offense. Their state of their offense is really bad outside of the running game, and their offensive line is okay. It's mostly just like their passing game. Who's their quarterback going to be? Who's their wide receivers going to be? I guess they're fine at tight end, but yeah. Their attack does not look menacing at the moment.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right, so the last team, the New York Jets. By the way, I understand they're a New York team. I just don't know why this team is talked about so much for how bad of an organization they are.
No, trust me. I live in New Jersey. I've heard about the Jets my whole life. I hate the Jets.
Okay, so I don't know how you feel about Sam Darnold. I still am okay with Sam Darnold. I like him. I don't love him, but I like him enough. If you ask me, I went back and I watched some Zach Wilson film, right? Because for whatever reason, Zach Wilson in the last 3 months, everybody's going nuts for. So
yeah.
I went back. I'm like, okay, I got to watch some Zach Wilson film because apparently I need to know about this guy, right? BYU quarterback, played subpar competition last year. I'm sorry. He played subpar competition last year, and he was irrelevant to last year. He looked good against that subpar competition last year. I will admit that. He looked pretty good. But you know what he reminds me of?
Who?
Fucking Sam Darnold.
No, not to me. I think he was better than Sam Darnold.
I'm not kidding. No, I'm comparing Sam Darnold's USC tape to Zach Wilson's BYU tape.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying I think that I don't agree because I think USC had much better weapons than what BYU had because he literally has a tight end and none of those other guys were any good.
Yeah, but BYU also sliced up some worse defenses than what USC played, which is kind of the point I'm about to get at. I feel like they're just drafting another Sam Darnold, and my problem with them I feel like the problem with them doing that is Sam Darnold did poorly from non-existing development. You can partially blame Sam Darnold for that, but look at his head coach. Look at the roster, right? How's he supposed to develop with that roster? Who's his wide receivers again? Like, hello?
Crowder, Perriman.
Yeah, like seriously, like are we developing a quarterback with that? No, we're not. My point is though, is if you're just resetting the rookie contract clock, fine. But where's the roster to help that rookie? I feel unless you're drafting a transcendent quarterback, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is till you fix your roster. And I think that's why I don't like them getting rid of Sam Darnold because it doesn't fix their issues. Getting another quarterback doesn't fix their issues. They have far bigger problems than quarterback. And that's my biggest problem with the Jets. Now, I love where Sam Darnold ended up with. I think he ended up in the perfect situation for himself. So kudos to Sam Darnold for landing with an actual coach and weapons. I'm not saying Robert Slay isn't an actual coach. I'm just saying an actual coach compared to Adam Gase, a guy who will benefit him offensively. The Panthers have some nice weapons. They got Christian McCaffrey. Like, Sam Darnold's going to be fine. If Sam Darnold does poorly, it's because Sam Darnold is bad, not because he doesn't have the right situation anymore. Coming back to the Jets, whether they draft Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, actually, maybe Trevor Lawrence would help them out. But if they draft like Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, or Trey Lance, I think no matter who goes there, they're screwed. Any of those three quarterbacks are screwed because they don't have any support. Like, what are they going to do? What is a quarterback for the Jets going to do other than suffer?
Yeah, well, the thing is, the hope is that they'll be good 2-3 years from now, right? I don't expect any of those guys to be very good this year. I think it's going to be Zach Wilson. It seems like that's the odds-on favorite. You see New York Times post a picture of fucking Broadway Zach Wilson. They called Sam Darnold Broadway Sam, so, maybe it's a bit of a curse. But I don't know. I agree with what you said about Sam Darnold. I think that he's in a very good spot, but whoever plays quarterback for the Jets this year is entirely fucked. I think they will do better than Darnold did, though, strictly because of the new head coach, who I think is actually smart, Robert Saleh. I think that they had to draft a new quarterback because they just didn't want – because, right, Darnold only has 2 years left on his contract, I believe, or 1 year left and then the fifth-year option.
Yeah, and the Panthers picked up the fifth-year option as well.
Yeah, so you can't really see what you have in Darnold really all that much until you get him better weapons. And then you're at the point of now I have to pay this guy a shit ton of money, right?
Yeah, if you want
2 years from now. You have to pay him a bunch of money. So the move that they did is strictly because, like you said, they want to reset the clock. Now you're at year 1 of 5 before you have to pay this guy. you will see some either glaring terribleness or greatness from Zach Wilson, because we've seen good from Darnold. Not a lot of it, but we saw some good. I think that this guy, Wilson, if he's the quarterback, will have a much better odds to succeed than Darnold had when he got to the Jets. So I think the Jets are going to be much better in the future, but this year, I don't see them winning more than 4 games, I would say. Probably. Maybe 5.
I would like them to upgrade their offensive line and running back position.
Yeah, they just brought in Tevin Coleman, but that's not the answer. You need to maybe draft someone.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm with you there. I don't think their secondary is that bad, is it? At least not from what I remember.
Terrible. I mean, they got rid of Jamal Adams, but they traded him for another safety who's, not like fucking Jamal Adams, but he's okay. They got a pick at the end of the first round, which they could draft someone new, which I think they will do. But like you said, offensive line is also key. They drafted an offensive tackle last year in the draft who, not amazing, but when you draft a first-round tackle, normally they end up being pretty solid, and he will be pretty solid. I think the biggest key is protecting Zach Wilson, because even though the wide receivers aren't amazing there, I genuinely think Mims is going to be very good. And I think if they are able to retain Crowder is all right. And I think Chris Herndon is very good as well, the tight end. But Gaze completely fucked him. He's one of in my opinion, the better tight ends in the league. But unless he gets a chance now, he will have like one of the most destroyed careers, because I think he could have been really good. But Gaze kind of screwed him over. So I think that this offense is actually not that bad. But again, it's not something where it's like, oh, this is a top 20 offense. Like, when you're looking at the receivers, it doesn't scream out as amazing. So I get where you're coming from.
I think what's going to happen, so obviously they drafted quarterback at number 2, right? Yeah, number 2. They have Seattle's first round pick. I'm guessing because their head coach is Robert Slay that they draft a corner.
Yeah,
that would be my guess. If I had to bet, like I know you're into betting. I'm not really into betting, but if I was forced to bet money, I'd say quarterback and then corner back. Right?
Yeah, probably.
And this team also. So here's what I was going to say about the Sam Darnold thing. They have 5 picks within the first 3 picks. They could have easily spent 5 picks on building a roster instead of drafting a quarterback. I think that was my main issue. I thought,
but then the issue is also then what happens if Darnold sucks?
Yeah, then you got to restart. Yeah, but hey, at least you have a roster to put when you get your new quarterback.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, there's definitely multiple ways to look at it. I mean, I'm also in the standpoint of view where I think Darnold will be good in Carolina, but Carolina also, he's going to a team with DJ Moore, with Robbie Anderson, and Christian McCaffrey. So if he was to fail, it would be embarrassing, to be honest with you, because Bridgewater is not even that good, and Bridgewater looked pretty solid last year.
So here's what's pretty nuts to me, okay? And maybe this makes drafting a quarterback okay. So they have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds this year, right? They also have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds next year as well. They have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a third next year. Dude,
yeah, they pretty much did what the Dolphins did, but a year later.
Joe Douglas has the opportunity to build a roster, and if he can't do it, man, you can't say he wasn't given the resources to. Now, of course, this all changes because trades happen, and depending upon where you place, based upon how much you win, depends on where you can get an effective player and how good college players are coming in. So, the Jets, I mean, I don't know how you feel about Rich Eisen, but I like Rich Eisen sometimes, and I feel bad for him because he is a well-known Jets fan, and he's always in misery. I feel like all Jets fans are always in misery. But he said something that really intrigued me a couple weeks ago, is he said he remembered when Sam Darnold was picked that he was excited about Sam Darnold. He felt like that was it. And he said going into this draft, he likes the quarterbacks, but he's not going to have the mentality that this is it, because he said the key isn't going to be who they draft at quarterback. The key is going to be, can you build a roster around them, whoever they are? Can you build a roster around Justin Fields? Can you build a roster around Trey Lance? Can you build a roster around Zach Wilson? Whoever it is, can you build the roster? I think that's the important step for the Jets is, can you build a good roster? Because right now it ain't that good.
Probably, yeah.
So that's how I feel. about them. So do we have any other comments on the Jets?
Probably not. I mean, the Jets are a team that drastically needed a new head coach. I think the quarterback change, like you said, is like a 50-50. Like, some people will probably be with you and be like, you know what, Darnold should have stayed there. And then the other half just wants a new guy, right? My dad is a Jets fan. He is more on your side and believes that Sam Darnold should have been the guy. And then you build around Sam Darnold. You draft Jamar Chase at pick 2, or you trade pick 2 and go further back. But then the issue again is what happens if you do this and then then Darnold sucks.
Yeah,
and then
he's bad anyway.
Yeah, so it's really tough to figure out. But I think the Jets are set up pretty decently for the future. But they're just one of those franchises that I feel like will never be good based on their name. It's kind of like the Browns, even though the Browns did make the playoffs this year. Just one of those teams. I mean, the Jets people forget, they made AFC Championship back-to-back and got smoked twice in a row by the Colts and then the Steelers.
Yeah, the Mark Sanchez years. That's right.
The Sanchez,
exactly. I got a question for you now that you brought it up. How the hell were you raised in New Jersey under your dad and became a Dolphins fan?
It's simple. So my dad likes the Jets, so I chose a team that plays the Jets twice a year that I like the most, and that was the Dolphins.
So you just wanted to piss off your dad?
Yeah, when I was like 6, I picked that. I've been a fan ever since I was young, since I can remember. I mean, there's pictures of me as a kid wearing Jets gear, but never been a Jets fan in my life. Only Dolphins.
So I forget, you're like 22, right?
I turned 22 next month, May 26th.
Okay. Oh, you're a May birthday, just like me. I was born May 13th. Okay, so we're pretty much exactly 3 years apart. So maybe you wouldn't remember this. So I have multiple jerseys in my closet. Some of them are kid jerseys that don't fit me anymore. The only jerseys I have that fit me now are a Joe Flacco jersey, a Justin Tucker jersey, and a Patrick Peterson jersey that I acquired just from some friend who's a Cardinals fan, right? But I have old jerseys in there because when I was a kid, I didn't cheer for teams. I cheered for players. I have an old Miami Dolphins number 34 Ricky Williams jersey still.
Oh, I love Ricky Williams.
Dude, I loved Ricky Williams when I was a kid. Like I called him Spaghetti Head because he had the dreads and I thought it was like noodle hair. So whenever the Dolphins played, I was like, give the ball to Spaghetti Head. I want to watch Spaghetti Head when I was like 7 years old.
That's funny. He signs his jerseys now. If you buy a signed jersey, it says smoke weed every day and he signs his name.
That's amazing. I now want to get my, medium-sized kid jersey and get him to sign it for it to say smoke weed every day.
What a guy. That guy got traded to it was like for like 7,000 picks, if you remember, when he went to the Saints, I think.
I remember that, yeah. And then he went to Baltimore for like a year, and then he went to, didn't he go to was it the Bills? Was his last team?
He was on the Saints, and then he went to the Washington football team. He got traded. This is the trade. So they traded the Ricky Williams, right? And the Washington football team received 1999 first round pick, 1999 third round pick, 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, and then a first and a third the next year.
Damn. Just for him to be the number 5 pick, right?
Yeah, they traded their whole 1999 draft, every single pick, and then 2 more after that, which is fucking hilarious.
Man, that's amazing. And then the Dolphins had him like just a couple years later. And then
that's when he was really good.
Yeah, and then I remember his last year being in Baltimore because he was in Baltimore the year I think it was the year we won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he also played in the CFL too.
Oh, did he? Who did he play for in the CFL?
Yeah, he was on the Toronto Argonauts.
Oh, the Argonauts. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, everyone knows the Argonauts.
Well, no. I used to watch CFL when I would get bored.
Oh, okay.
So I know who they are. I don't really watch it anymore. It's not as entertaining as you'd think it would be. So
yeah, I only watched once, and it was when Johnny Football was in the CFL.
How did that go?
Pretty bad. It was fun to watch, though.
Anyways, I was just wondering how you became a fan. It's always interesting how people became fans. Like, Pardue became a Cardinals fan just because Larry Fitzgerald exists. That's how a lot of people here became Cardinals fans. When you get a franchise player that makes your sport exciting, like, of course, everybody's going to, in your area become a fan of that team. Like me, the reason I became a Ravens fan what it really, I mean, there's a long story behind it that I won't get into, but what it boils down to is I chose between the Ravens and the Jaguars, and purple's my favorite color. So
that's funny.
So because of my favorite color, I ended up being a happy football fan over a fan in misery with Jacksonville. That's really what it ended up coming down to. Now, there's a reason I was picking between the Ravens and Jaguars. It's because when I picked my team at the time, I wanted to pick a losing team, right? So no one could call me a bandwagon. But literally, I picked them in a losing season, right? I think they were like 5-9 at the time. I'm like, all right, I'm going to cheer for the Ravens for these last couple weeks, right? And then I'm going to cheer for them going forward. And the very next year, they drafted Joe Flacco, and it's been great ever since.
That's funny.
So it's kind of funny how that worked out. So I've been a spoiled fan my entire time. I've kind of been waiting for the bad years to come, and they haven't yet. I'm sure they will at some point. Like, it happens to every franchise at some point. So I don't think we have anything else on the AFC South or the AFC East. I would ask you going into the season if you have any fantasy hot takes, but quite honestly, I don't think fantasy should really be discussed till like July anyway.
Yeah, there's really nothing. I mean, it's hard to make a real hot take until after the draft, to be honest with you. Like, you can still talk about fantasy now, but a lot of it is just what I think now is going to be completely different in August. I just think it's interesting to talk about it now because then you can see, how you can go back and watch. Like, how did my opinion shift from now until August? Like, am I thinking wrongly now based upon not remembering what I thought back in April? Things like that.
Yeah.
I just find interesting.
Or I'm big on Johnny Smith right now, but maybe come August I'll be like, nah, fuck Johnny Smith. I'm not touching that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just fun to think about stuff now versus the future because it's also very hard to predict super duper hot takes, like calling something real crazy, and it ends up working.
The reason why I've always been a person that doesn't like discuss fantasy a lot until July is because I don't discuss it till training camp. Like, who's cut, who's injured, who made teams, like, where are people going, right? I think that's what usually starts determining, like, that's usually when I start making my lists for, okay, these are the wide receivers I'm looking at, these are the running backs I'm looking at. You know, I usually never look at quarterbacks. I usually just say, okay, I want, like, some, like, if I'm doing, like, a regular draft, which I prefer auction these days now, but if I'm ever doing a regular snake draft or whatever, I don't draft quarterback till, like, round 9 or round 10.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Like, quarterbacks are a dime a dozen, dude. Like, everybody scores 17 points on average unless you want the elite quarterback. But even then, my elite wide receiver compared to your average wide receiver, there's a bigger gap there than if you have an elite quarterback and I have a decent quarterback. So, I mean,
yeah, that's true.
You know, you're the fantasy guy. You know that as well. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on. I'm not kidding when I say that you are one of my favorite pieces of content that I watch, and probably one of my favorite Twitter follows, because you this is meant in the most polite and commentary way possible. You tweet some really dumb shit, which just makes me laugh so hard when I'm on Twitter.
I don't use, a lot of people use Twitter to like tweet out like stats. I just tweet out random things that I think.
Yeah, or you tweet out some nice football memes. So, anyways, but like your actual thoughts and your actual analysis is usually pretty decent, and you usually have some perspectives that I never think about. So it's always nice to hear from someone who is a football junkie like me, is around my age, and just loves football for the sake of loving football, right?
Exactly.
All right, so if you listeners and mostly our Arizona natives don't know who this New Jersey native is, his name is Nick Notorious. You can find him on Twitter. Did you change your @?
No, it's still the same. It's @Notorious FNTSY because Notorious Fantasy doesn't fit because there's like a character limit.
Yeah. So he's a big fantasy football guy. He also does regular football analysis too, so you can follow him for both. He also posts some great football memes as well, as I was saying before. But come your fantasy season, I'd definitely be looking at him and hitting him up. So make sure you follow him and check out his stuff on YouTube as well. You can follow our show at HC Analyst, Head Couch Analyst, and you can follow me at HC JC Sanders. I always ask Pardue after I put out the Twitter shout-outs if there's anything else. So I'm going to ask you. Any last second thoughts?
Oh, yeah, nothing much, but guys, make sure if you're coming from me. Like, I will direct people here. Make sure you subscribe to them as well. Obviously, Pardue's not here, but he is also a very kind man who I enjoyed talking to the last time I was here. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to this channel as well. I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much, man, for that. So we are the Head Couch Analysts, and we will see you guys all next week. Thank you so much for listening.